Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes. You are welcome here. No matter what you have experienced in the past, no matter what awaits you in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open minds, loving hearts, and willing hands. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. My name is Lindsay. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a femme-presenting person wearing a green sweater and with brown hair and blue eyes. It is my privilege to serve as the worship associate for this morning's service. And our worship leader this morning is Matthew. Reverend Laura is away from our pulpit as she is preaching for our sister congregation in Ogden. She will be back with us next week. Today's service is an intergenerational, so children and youth are invited to stay upstairs with us. Childcare is available for children under 4 in the nursery. Okay, let's take a moment now to fully arrive and welcome one another with joy, starting by turning around and waving to our people online. And then go ahead and welcome each other in person as well.
Stand in mind, body, and spirit as you are willing and able for our opening hymn.
All right, we will now light the chalice. Thank you, Daniel. Those at home are invited to light a chalice and share in this ritual by entering "chalice is lit" and the name of your street in the chat box on Zoom. Please join me in repeating our chalice lighting words and use our actions if you wish. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action, and the flames of resistance. All right.
Wow, it's already my turn. I was expecting a little bit more time. I think we're flying through this. Kids and those who are, young at heart, the young and the young at heart, I would love to see you guys up front for Time for All Ages. Please come up and grab a cushion and have a seat. So I like to have a conversation with you guys for Time for All Ages. I know some of you have probably figured that out, that this is something that I enjoy doing because I think you guys have a whole lot of wisdom. And I think, I don't know, you might be willing to say things that we might not be willing to say in a situation because it's so obvious. And I love that you guys get to share your thoughts with us in these situations. So today, what I want to ask you to share your thoughts with me about is what today is about. Today's service is all about activism, being an activist. Who can tell me what that means? Ren. MLK Jr. was an activist for civil rights. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example.
I believe that an activist is a person who stands for people, for things that they find as not right. A person who tries to make change, even when it's more difficult than what others would like to do.
I think that second part is really important because you're absolutely right. It's standing for something. But it's oftentimes standing for something in a situation where that is difficult to do, right? Where it is less comfortable to stand than it is to be quiet. Who else has thoughts about what activism or what an activist is? Hi. Well, I think you guys have done a great job covering what that is. I would love to know if you have a couple more examples. Does anyone else have an example of who an activist might be? We talked about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we're going to talk a little bit more about today. But does anyone else have an example of an activist? Yeah.
Susan B. Anthony.
Susan B. Anthony, and what did she advocate for? Women's suffrage, the right to vote, which is a very, very important thing to have advocated for. Yeah, Susan B. Anthony is a great example. Malcolm X is another example. He was another civil rights leader, who was assassinated, unfortunately. So what does all of this mean? Does it mean that we're sitting here trying to tell you guys that you have to be an activist about something? No, absolutely not. This is just introducing you guys to the idea that activism exists and that we think here in UU circles that it's a positive thing, that standing up for what you believe in, for sitting down and saying, that's not right, I think that should change. That is something that we strongly believe in as a congregation, as a faith. And I think that today you guys might learn a little bit more about the people who, or in this case, one person who was integral to, I don't know, I would say changing the world in Dr. Martin Luther King himself, Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Anyway, that's really all I've got. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming up here. It is intergenerational, so go back and sit with your parents, please. This community, our church, and its many ministries are only made possible by the gifts you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Many of you pledge monthly to support our work, and for this we are grateful. Your gifts help to ensure that we are able to live our values of love and justice in the world outside. Part of our ministry at South Valley includes sharing our Sunday worship offerings with a charitable organization that aligns with our principles and values. Today's offering benefits the Second and Second Coalition, providing a safe place on the coldest nights for our unsheltered neighbors. Please join me in reading our offertory words. They're printed in the order of service and right up here. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we serve the welfare of this community and sustain it with our gifts. We will now accept the offering. For those at home and those of you here, you are invited to use the giving link in our online order of service. I invite the ushers to come forward at this time.
Happens to our dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load.
For all we have received and all we have found the courage to give, may we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and the Second and Second Coalition. So I want to take a moment and introduce myself because I haven't done that yet. My name is Matthew Morris. I am the worship leader today. I am a very tall white man who shaved his hair and his beard and is just completely shorn. And I'm just very grateful to have the opportunity to be here with you guys today. Speaking of today, all gathered here today are invited to participate in our ritual of joys and sorrows. Those who are joining us in the virtual community are invited to use the chat box in the Zoom space to share your joys and sorrows. For those gathered here in body, you are invited to approach the altar and place a stone on the water. There's one here in the front, there's one there in the back, whichever one feels better to you. Let's see. You feel free to pause as you select your stone and gently place it in the water bowl. You are invited to practice this ritual in silence. At the close of the ritual, when all who have added their stone, we will add a final stone to represent those joys and sorrows, unexpressed but still held in kindness. Those gathered here today may now begin to process up to a table. And now we will add 2 final stones, one for everybody on Zoom, all of those joys and sorrows expressed there. And then one for all of the joys and sorrows that are still there but are left unexpressed, unsaid.
Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in America. In that spirit, I want to share some of his words from the letter of Birmingham jail. Dr. King's letter responds to Southern white religious leaders who expressed concern about the civil rights movement. Early in the letter, he writes, "Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly." Dr. King's words sound a lot like our second principle. Further along in the letter, he writes, "For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the air of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. It has been a tranquilizing thalidomide, relieving the emotional stress for a moment only to give birth to an ill-formed infant of frustration. We must come to see with the distinguished jurist of yesterday that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited more than 340 years for our God-given and constitutional rights. 50 years later, the fight for those rights was still ongoing, and people had to justify the necessity of the George Floyd protests, despite the rising tide of violence against men of color by the police force. John Lewis said, "A democracy cannot thrive where power remains unchecked and justice is reserved for a select few. Ignoring these cries and failing to respond to this movement is simply not an option, for peace cannot exist where justice is not served." It seems like we're saying the same things over and over again, things that are just as true today as when Martin Luther King said them, and people still think inaction and silence are more polite. Alicia Garza said, "I learned that racism, like most systems of oppression, isn't about bad people doing terrible things to people who are different from them, but instead is a way of maintaining power for certain groups at the expense of others. That maintenance of power is only possible if we allow it to be. We are the harbingers of whatever injustices our children suffer, not always through violence or direct harm, but through our indifference." Directly addressing criticisms of the protest movement, Martin Luther King wrote, "The Negro has many pent-up resentments and latent frustrations, and he must release them. So let him march, let him make prayer pilgrimages to the city hall, let him go on freedom rides, and try to understand why he must do so. If his repressed emotions are not released in nonviolent ways, they will seek expression through violence. This is not a threat, but a fact of history. So I have said to my people, get rid of your discontent." So I have not said to my people, get rid of your discontent. Rather, I have tried to say that this normal and healthy discontent can be channeled into the creative outlet of nonviolent direct action. And now this approach is being termed extremist. But though I was initially disappointed at being categorized as an extremist, as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a measure of satisfaction from the label. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you? Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. The question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice? Dr. King's words ring loudly as today as they did in 1963.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I think it's really important to revisit Dr. King's words from time to time, and I couldn't think of a better day to do it than this Sunday prior to the holiday. So I want to talk about a couple of the principles. As Unitarian Universalists, we have 7 principles which can serve as a moral guide. One of those principles says we believe in the, quote, inherent worth and dignity of every person. More simply put, we believe that each and every person is important and deserving of respect. Another principle is, quote, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. In other words, we believe everyone should be treated fairly and kindly. Through the lens of those 2 principles today, I'd like to discuss something that sits at the heart of our faith tradition, the call to action. We are called to make our principles real in the world, but activism can feel overwhelming. Where do I start? How do I contribute? I want to explore 3 distinct approaches to creating change: direct action, community organizing, and economic activism. I'll reflect on how each approach embodies our values. Direct action is the most visible form of activism. It's the march, the sit-in, it's the protest. It's people putting their bodies on the line to say, this is wrong and we will not be silent. When we think about direct action through our first principle, that each person is important, we see it as a form of witness. We show up to affirm that every human being matters. When immigrants are threatened, we form human chains. When voting rights are suppressed, we march. When anyone's worth is under attack, we make ourselves seen. Direct action is immediate. It's urgent. It says, the time is now. I'm tearing up because I'm thinking about what's going on. Pardon me. It says the time is now. It disrupts business as usual because business as usual is causing harm. Think of the lunch counter sit-ins during the civil rights movement, or the climate-change activists blocking fossil fuel infrastructure today. These acts challenge systems that treat people as less than fully human. But direct action is also deeply personal. It asks us to risk comfort, sometimes even safety, to stand in solidarity. And in that act of showing up, we embody a radical idea. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity, no exceptions. The question direct action poses to us is simple. Are you willing to be inconvenient for justice? Community organizing takes a different approach. It's slower, more strategic, deeply relational. It's about building power from the ground up, bringing people together, identifying shared concerns, working systematically for change. This is where our second principle comes alive, treating everyone fairly and kindly. Community organizing recognizes that real change doesn't happen from a single dramatic moment. It happens through sustained relationships and collective action. Think about the tenant unions fighting for affordable housing or parent groups advocating for better schools. These aren't flashy efforts. They're conversations at kitchen tables. They're listening sessions in church basements. The patient work of building trust it's the patient work of building trust across differences and finding common ground. What makes community organizing so powerful is that it centers around people most affected by injustice. It doesn't impose solutions from the outside. Instead, it asks, what do you need? What do you want to see change? And then it helps people discover their own power to make that change happen. This is fairness in action. Not treating everyone exactly the same, but recognizing that different communities face different barriers. They need different tools. And it's kindness in practice, deep, patient listening to people's real lived experiences. Community organizing asks us, are we willing to share power, not just speak on behalf of others? The third form of activism I want to discuss is economic. Boycotts, divestment campaigns, ethical purchasing, supporting worker-owned cooperatives. This approach recognizes that money is power. How we spend it or don't spend it is a moral choice. Economic activism connects to both of our principles. It affirms that each person is important by refusing to fund systems that exploit people. That means refusing products made with child labor, divesting from companies that violate human rights. And those are easy things to say and really hard things to do. And it promotes fairness and kindness by directing our money towards businesses that align with our values. This form of activism is accessible to most everyone. We may not all be able to attend a protest or join a campaign, but we all make purchasing decisions every day. Where we bank, what we buy, who we support. Those choices do add up. The challenge with economic activism is that it requires information. It requires intentionality. We have to look beyond the marketing, research supply chains. Sometimes it asks us to make inconvenient or more expensive choices. It implores us to see ourselves not just as consumers, but as participants in the economic systems that either harm or help. Think of the Montgomery bus boycott. People walked miles to work because they refused to fund a segregated system. I don't think about that enough. I think about the boycott and think, okay, they didn't ride the bus. But I don't think about what's next when you don't ride the bus. You're walking to work. Walked miles to work because they refused to fund a segregated system. Or modern campaigns to divest university endowments from fossil fuels. These efforts say, we will not let our money support what we believe is wrong. Economic activism asks us, are we willing to align our spending with our values, even when it costs us something? What strikes me most about these three forms of activism is that they aren't in competition, they're complementary. Direct action creates urgency and visibility. Community organizing builds lasting power and relationships. Economic activism uses our daily choices for justice. We don't have to do all three. I mean, let's be frank, you don't have to do any of these. You can do anything you don't want to do, but you are invited. Some of us are natural organizers. Others are called to the streets. Some of us work best making thoughtful choices about where our money goes. The important thing is that we do something. I would argue that showing up here today is doing something. Because here's the truth our faith calls us to remember. Believing that each person is important isn't passive. It's active. Believing in fairness and kindness isn't theoretical. It's practical. These principles demand action. They demand that we show up in the world and make them real. When we take direct action, we bear witness. When we organize communities, we build power. When we make economic choices aligned with our values, we vote with our dollars. Each path is valid. Each path is needed. Each path is a way of saying, I believe people matter. And I'm willing to act on that belief. So I'll close with this invitation. What form of activism speaks to you? Where do you feel called to act? Because our world needs all of us. Not just our good intentions, but our hands, our voices, our resources, and our commitment. Let's not just believe in justice. Let's build it. Thank you. I was waiting a long time for that sip of water. All right, so it's closing hymn time. Please stand in body, mind, and spirit as you are willing and able for our closing hymn number 170. We are a gentle, angry people. Please remain standing as you wish for the extinguishing of our chalice, and join us in our words and actions as we extinguish our chalice. The words are in your order of service, and you are invited to say them out loud with me. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. Thank you. I've got a quick benediction. It's written by Pat Uribe-Lichty. Go out now with hearts and hands and minds renewed to the world that is waiting for you. Go out to that world to bring your gentle touch to those in pain. Go out to feed and house those in need. Go out to speak truth to those with power. Go out with courage to do the work which calls you. Go out now with your passion and faith to change the world.
We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. We cannot turn back. We cannot walk alone. We cannot turn back. We cannot turn back. We cannot turn back. We cannot walk alone. As we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back, cannot turn back, we cannot turn back, we cannot turn back, we cannot walk alone. There are those who ask you to never be to civil rights. When will you be satisfied? We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. When all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country tears of thee. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. I have a dream. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. From every mountainside, I have a dream. I have a dream today. Let freedom ring. I have a dream. Let freedom ring. From every mountain, let freedom ring. I have a dream. I have a dream today. I have a dream. From every mountainside, I have a dream today. I have a dream. From every mountainside, I have a dream today. I have a dream. From every mountainside, I have a dream today.